welcome back to We the People Reporting. All right, I want to jump right into something that I think is very, very important about regarding today's impeachment inquiry with Marie Yovanovitch. Now, I want to discuss something that I noticed. If you recall back, we had discussed in my other videos how Joe Biden was on record, and I showed the video clip of him bragging about how he had the prosecutor of Ukraine fired within 6 hours, or else they would not get the $1 billion that the U.S. was going to give them in aid unless he was terminated, Shenko. And then within that 6 hours, he was terminated. Now, what's interesting is that in today's the impeachment hearing with Marie, there was something that came up regarding a list that she supposedly gave somebody, and we'll talk about that right now, regarding of who not to prosecute, as she gave this list to the new prosecutor who stepped in. And I believe his name was Lysenko. Now, what's interesting is this. Joe Biden had the prosecutor terminated. Lysenko steps in, which was appointed by, of course, which was approved by, of course, the Obama administration, the vice president, Biden. And Lysenko steps in and meets with the U.S. ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch. And according to Lysenko, he had an interview this year, I believe it was in March, with John Solomon, and he was concerned because when they met, he states how that there was some tension, that there was probably, it wasn't a good meeting, because he alleges, and we're going to watch the clip right now with John Solomon, Lysenko alleges that she gave him a list of names, and I believe there are names and maybe of who not to prosecute, that he was not allowed to go after. Now, in today's hearing, we're going to play that clip too. This was denied by Marie when she was asked about it. And then what was interesting is that the gentleman who was asking the question, the Democrat, mentioned that it was also that Lysenko also retracted what he had said, that he changed his story and retracted that she did not give them this list of people, which named Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, and Burisma and all that he was going to go after and investigate. So she denies giving him the list, and the Democrat quotes that Lysenko retracted his original statement to John Solomon. So let's take a look at this. First, let's take a look at how the John Solomon interview went with Lysenko and what he has to say. Let's take a look.
A lot of times Americans always want to know, how is our representatives in your country doing? So I want to ask you a question. How do you gauge the relationship between Ukraine and specifically our U.S. ambassador, Ms. Yovanovitch?
Ambassador from any country represents this country in our country. From this point of view, I give my respect to the ambassador. From another hand, it is true that I had some difficult personal relationship with Ms. Ambassador. Unfortunately, from the first meeting with the U.S. ambassador in Kiev, Ms. Ambassador gave me a list of people whom we should not prosecute.
Okay, as you can see, Lysenko makes it clear that what he was trying to say was that she gave him a list of who not to go after to prosecute, because he had already had an idea in telling her of who he wants to start looking at. And she was like, no, that's not going to happen. What's interesting is that what we're going to see now, I want to show you that there was reporting of the retraction. Now, I want to show this, because right after that interview with John Solomon, which you just saw, what had happened was, in, I guess, around April, the Ukrainian Information Agency had on their website this heading, and this was dated April 18, 2019, where it says Ukraine prosecutor General Lysenko admits U.S. ambassador didn't give him a do not prosecute list. Now, this is what was brought up in the questioning today to Marie regarding the list and the retraction. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this.
Was the allegation that you were bad-mouthing President Trump true?
No.
Was the allegation that you had created a do not prosecute list to give to the prosecutor general in Ukraine true?
No.
In fact, didn't the corrupt prosecutor general himself later recant those allegations?
Yes.
Okay, so what you notice is, one, she denied giving him a list. And, of course, the Democrat then stated how Lysenko retracted his statement. But my question is this: did he really retract the statement? Now, that was the one of the sources that came out from the Union Information Agency in Ukraine. And who picked up on this was the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal reported that Mr. Lysenko later retracted the allegation about her, Marie giving him the list, and that he retracted it. And then the Washington Post picks that up from the Wall Street and reports John Solomon foisted a bogus story on Fox News viewers. His punishment, a contract. Now, what's interesting is that he reports in the Washington Post, reports on this, and this was done by Eric Wimple, who I tried to reach out on Twitter regarding this because we're going to show that this was not true. That he reports how Lysenko retracted his statement according to the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal reports from the Union Information Agency in Ukraine. But then where the Ukraine got it, the information agency where they got their story, does not reflect what these other news agencies are saying. It's all a lie. It's like nobody wants to do their homework, to go to the source and see, did this happen? We saw what Lysenko said to John Solomon. We saw that these articles came out, a retraction, and then was asked to Marie Yovanovitch in today's hearing, and she denied it. And of course, the Democrat decided to bring up the retraction. But did he really retract it? That's the question. Did he really retract what he said? Now, I went to the source because that Union Information Agency, their source for that was the Ukrainian newspaper, or Ukrainian article on the Bable. And I went on the Bable to pull it up. And I got the link. And I went on to see how if he really retracted. Because if he did retract it, then there's something wrong. It doesn't make sense that he challenged John Solomon, that he gave her a list of who not to prosecute, who not to touch, with Hunter Biden being on it and Burisma and others on there. And then all of a sudden he retracts it. That's kind of weird. But he never retracted. In fact, I'm going to read to you exactly what he said. And this is what bugs me, because the news media is deliberately lying or being dishonest about this. And this is what bothers me, because how can we trust the media? And then if Marie Yovanovitch is either lying or kind of hiding the truth, because and what General Lysenko is going to say, he's going to clarify what he meant by her giving him the list. Now, she might be playing some word games here in her testimony, saying, no, I did not give him a list. But I'm going to read first what he has to say, and then I want you to decide if he actually retracted, as the newspapers reported, or are they lying and not really doing their job? And again, we have to fact check this. So let me read what he has to say. On March 7th, 2019, the Hill columnist offered me this interview. I led him on Skype. All that I said in it is true. So he's already admitting that everything so far that he told is true regarding what he's going to mention here in the list. He says, there is a clarification regarding the list of untouchable corrupt officials, which was voiced by Madam Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. So he points this out, that there is a list. He's going to clarify a list. This is not a retraction. This is a clarification of what Marie Yovanovitch gave to him regarding the untouchable corrupt officials that he's naming to her. And so what he basically states right after this, he says that he had told her in this article who these people were. He named Hunter Biden, Burisma, who he's going to start looking into. Well, apparently she didn't like that. She said that is unacceptable. They will undermine the credibility of anti-corruption activists. So then General Lysenko said, I took a piece of paper, recorded the surnames announced, and said, dictate a list of untouchable person. Marie said, no, you misunderstood me. I say, no, I understood you correctly, Lysenko told her. Previously, such lists were written by the presidential administration, and you propose a new list from the U.S. Embassy. So, she's proposing a new list. She's right. She didn't give him a list. She verbally told him the names. because he was already going to go after certain ones, and she said that's unacceptable, it could undermine everything. And then he wrote down the surnames that was verbally given to him of who not to go after, who not to look at. So she's right. She didn't give him a list. She dictated, she told him who not to go after, and he wrote it down. He wrote down the list according to this. And he says, I took a piece of paper, recorded the surnames, announced, and said, dictate a list of untouchable persons from that list. Now, of course, that was something that didn't go well, and then it ended, and she left. This is what bugs me. He never retracted. That's number one. He never retracted what he said. He clarified. Yes, she didn't give me a list. She told me the list. He told her who he was going after. She told him who not to go after, and he wrote it down. That's all that happened. So yes, the media did not report this accurately. The media is saying that he retracted. That's a lie. He clarified. The Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, where they got their sources, and then from that Ukrainian article, they didn't bother looking at that source to go back to the original, the Bable, which told the truth. Lysenko never retracted it, and as you saw in today's hearing, the Democrats repeated this lie, that he retracted what he said. He never retracted. Now, this is why it bugs me, because the media is lying. Marie Yovanovitch is basically lying, or, again, Lysenko could be lying, but is he? It would make no sense, because they brought him in after Biden terminated the prosecutor. The Obama administration brought in this prosecutor, General Lysenko, to take over. So why would he be lying? It would make no sense. He was appointed by them, and then he meets with the U.S. Ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch. He tells her who he's going to look after. She does not like that, and she tells him. He gets a piece of paper and writes down who she's telling, writes down what she's saying on the names of people who not to prosecute, who not to go after. And so he makes that clear. You guys are giving me this new list from the U.S. Embassy now of who not to go after. So, again, this is ridiculous to me how the media continues to lie, continues to not check the sources or go after the truth, and then brings it up at the impeachment hearing as if there was a retraction, and Yovanovitch is most likely lying, saying, I never gave him a list. Yeah, you never gave it to him. You told him who not to prosecute. He told you who he was going after, and you told him, and he wrote down what names you gave do not touch. And so we're left here, look, you could all talk about how great her service was, and yeah, she has all this long career, but that does not mean that long, miraculous service she gave the country does not mean immune or not capable of maybe not telling the truth. They hold her up in this high regard of like she would never do that. She's like up here, and that's not true. Everybody could lie depending upon not wanting to get caught if they're in a situation. Nobody pressed her on it. Nobody tried to press her on it. So she had pretty much every way to tell her story and not be pressured on this issue. But we need to know the truth here. We're talking about impeaching a president over a phone call, and how the true back channels of the Democratic Party, which was reported today also, which was mentioned in the impeachment hearing, how the impeach inquiry today talked about how Ukraine was helping Hillary Clinton, and that's all documented by the government documentations we have that you can find online, and how they put it into evidence that was the true collusion between the Democratic Party and trying to help Hillary win. And that was even in the Ukrainian courts validated that and prosecuted two individuals, and then because of some small technicalities had to overturn it, not because they didn't happen, is minor stuff that happened, which is another ridiculous thing. But it was already proven in the Ukrainian court that the individuals were trying to help Hillary by getting dirt on Donald Trump, which you see by the videos. I point that out and document that from the documentation that you can find online. So it's hard to make out of this heads or tails. The retraction's a lie. Marie Yovanovitch is not telling the truth of her giving him or telling him who not to prosecute. She didn't give him a list. She told him, no, you're not going to do X, Y. He wrote it down and dictated it. This is the person they brought in after Joe Biden had that prosecutor terminated. So there's no reason why he's going to be lying over this. But to protect their own behinds, I think Marie, has to not say that because it would not look good. And of course, they bring up retraction the newspapers here lie about. So we read this stuff, and it's a lie. So do me a favor. I'm going to leave the links down below. You can check them out for yourself. Look them up, pull them up, and check them out. And I hope you do. Read it for yourself because we're not being told the truth by the media at all. The Democratic Party is how the whistleblower's lawyer said is in a coup. We're in a coup, and they're going to impeach, and that's it. It's all going to happen. So I hope this helped. Please do your homework. Check this out. Click on the links and go ahead and verify what I'm saying here. And we need to get this out here. Please like and share on here. Put it out there as much as you can. We need to get as many people to hear it and see it. So thank you and God bless.